Charco, a jewel of a place to walk and refresh ourselves and discover all sorts of amazing things about our local environment. More though, it's a pioneering place where Mexico's conservation efforts are being integrated with science. This is a result of some profound stewardship that has been led by our presenter today. Mario Hernandez is both the general director and he is the president of the Mexican Botanic Garden Association. So he's going to share history of El Charco with us and how we may be part of its future. Please help me welcome Mario Hernandez to Rotary Midday SMA.
Good morning. Thank you for the invitation here to Rotary. It's always a pleasure to be here, share the experience of El Charco del Ingenio. I won't be talking much today about the site itself because, as I assume most of you are aware of, a botanical garden is a project of scientific conservation of a specific botanic family of plants. El Charco del Ingenio guards the most important botanic collection of Mexican succulents, or succulents of major distribution through Mexico. So we are renowned for this great effort of our botanic collection. But today, I want to share what we've been doing for the past 3 or 4 years, which we have really been a strong project, and we have had the opportunity to go out of El Charco and to, as Robin has mentioned, we've been working with the indigenous groups of different parts of mainly the north and northeast part of the state of Guanajuato. So today I want to share with you much of what we've been doing of this approach and the results that we've been having, and this is really, really just amazing. So today's presentation is called Saberes Comunitarios para la Conservación y Defensa del Territorio y Experiencia de Gestión del Jardín Ethnobiológico de Guanajuato. You better write that down. There's going to be an exam at the end. All right? No es el otro. Excellent. So El Charco del Ingenio is today a citizens project of 33 years of existence. This is very important because throughout 33 years of the history of El Charco, we have never received funds from the city, state, or federal government. Everything that we have done has been through our own fundraising, our own activities, and of course, with the collaboration of the community. So we are very proud of what we've achieved. It's been a slow process, but I think nature is showing us always its patience, and we've just got to follow up on that. Here we see, if you haven't been to El Charco recently, what is our Science Interpretation Center, which we will have a beautiful inauguration this Tuesday with a great collaboration. So this here is our Science Interpretation Center. This is our beautiful new access, the area where you can see part of the property and basically the watershed, and of course the Conservatory of Mexican Plants. Here you will see much that we have been working, finding many of the seeds of native corns that have been kept and stored by families throughout hundreds of years, and much of the materials that they've been using, fibers, to produce much of what their instruments that they use. Here we have some prickly pears, tunas. Here we have the seeds of a beautiful tree called fraile, and with the beautiful flowers. And these its seeds are what with our put together to do these kind of bracelets or anklets or whatever you call them for traditional dances. And here you'll see colonche, a delicious beverage made from tuna. And of course, cucharilla, which is a very important plant here in the state of Guanajuato. ¿Cómo lo doy la que sigue? Ahí está. So this is the area where we have been collaborating basically in 5 municipalities, 6, which is San Miguel de Allende with 20 indigenous communities, Dolores Comonfort, Victoria, Tierra Blanca, and San Luis de la Paz. It's all this northeast part of the state of Guanajuato. And these are the number of indigenous communities that we've been working with. What methodology we've been using? Basically, the construction of a calendar, of an agenda to participate with the communities, and a preliminary walk through the area to understand which plants are they using, which plants do they have. And we've been finding these important social actors that have been providing very, very important information. Then we've gone to collect botanic information, plants from their backyards or their campo, the fields. Then with that, we've been with interviews on how they've been using all that material and storing all that information with, to develop a book that you may have seen already. Ahí está. Then, with all the results that we've come up with, we share them, of course, with the communities. And then we also organize a visit to botanical gardens. Many of these groups have heard of El Charco del Ingenio, but have never been to El Charco del Ingenio. Then we had the opportunity to, and you'll find this on YouTube, to put together a 40-minute, what was going to be a 20-minute documentary, ended up in a 40-minute documentary. Very interesting of the local culture in the north and northeast part of the state. And of course, the importance of this flora of the northeast part of the state of Guanajuato. What did we find? Let me go back here. Most of the information that we find for the state of Guanajuato is developed by the University of Querétaro. This is the state of Guanajuato. University of Guanajuato has really undermined the natural resources in the state of Guanajuato with its intention basically to transform the agricultural practices sites into industrial activity. And we've been seeing the automotive industry just coming to the state of Guanajuato and just a disaster of wiping out everything. So sadly to say, the universities in Guanajuato have no interest in the flora of the state, and everything that we have been able to access is throughout the University of Querétaro. In the University of Querétaro, Dr. Hernandez, who is the main researcher for useful plants in Guanajuato, in his studies, he has pointed out a number of 430 plants that are used here for the state of Guanajuato, 430 plants. Well, just El Charco del Ingenio participating in 5 indigenous communities, we ran into 238, just in 5 indigenous communities. This means, what could there exist in the complete state of Guanajuato if there was a thorough inventory done through the state to understand what is our these common resources that are still abundant in specific parts of the state? The plants that we basically found that people were using were basically for traditional medicine, herbolaria, and also for ceremonies, for food, is basically what what is showing that people are using these plants for. And of course, there are other categories that we found, and a new plant that we believe we will be identifying soon. With this effort, we found that it was also necessary to understand the indigenous language, because within the indigenous language, when we were able to, with the linguistics that were participating in this research, to be able to understand that in the indigenous name was much of the knowledge of how the plant was used. So going through all this effort was very, very important. And here for the state of Guanajuato, in the northeast part of the state, there's basically 2 indigenous groups that have developed from other groups, but today they are Chichimeco and Otomi, or Ñaño. So with this effort, we understood that we had to go further and also put together a program of teaching Otomi in the indigenous communities, because we were finding that the population is just decreasing drastically. So this is Dr. Aurelio Núñez interviewing Don Silvestre, and with part of this information, we also put together a book of spontaneous plants, of flowers, wildflowers, and this is their blooming season, their botanical family, their scientific name, their common name in Spanish and English, and the names in Otomi. Don Silvestre that we saw in the previous picture was the last speaker in Don Francisco here in San Miguel de Allende, and he passed away 2 months ago. This is part of the teaching program that we have in different communities. We were able to be facilitated by the schools with a classroom, whiteboard, and here we have all the information that grown-ups and children were bringing back from their ancestral knowledge. With this information, El Charco del Ingenio today is also considered the ethnobiological garden for the state of Guanajuato, and that has been acknowledged by the federal government and the National Council of Science, Technology, and Humanities. And we belong to this network, and we are very proud of what we've achieved, because we are really, everyone's looking around the country or the world looking for El Charco del Ingenio because of all the information we've been putting together. And this is a collaboration we recently had with 3 other botanical gardens, one for the state of Sinaloa, Durango, and the state of Campeche, and of course, El Charco del Ingenio. This is some of the scientific information that we are sharing with the community, because we're democratizing this scientific knowledge into something that could be easier to understand, to read, to interpret, and to value our natural resources. This is Cucharilla, Dacilirium nacotricum. This is the sacred plant that is used in the different festivities, as you've seen here in San Miguel de Allende. It is a plant that is its leaves are taken to develop these different offerings that are put together and offered to the souls or the patrons of each community. This is mesquite. Why is this so important? Because as we have mentioned, with this global climate change, we really need to understand what are the natural elements that are our allies in order to confront global climate change. So these are 2 basic plants. One is more of a shrub, and this is definitely a tree. You know, mesquites, they grow up to 6 meters tall, and they are very important because their root system is completely vertical. It goes straight down, and that helps us in this area to crack the bedrock at the bottom and to allow water to trickle down to filter faster. So these are important elements that we are sharing, and you'll find all this on our webpage and also on our Facebook. If you go to our webpage, you will go, I should have put this in English, to the tab of Ethnobiology, and right there you will find the collections that we've put together, one of agaves, isotes, nopales, plantas de uso tradicional, traditional use, medicinal plants, plants used in the northeast part of the state of Guanajuato, and ethnoflora. You will find the family, the gender, the species, the author, and all the scientific information, and also, in most of these, the indigenous name in Otomi, which was a big challenge.
Nopal, Upo, Zarambuyo, Era.
What is this? This is, that was supposed to be there. ¿Dónde punto? Ah, no. What you just heard was nopal, mentioned, pronounced in Chichimeco, and garambullo, also nopal pronounced in Chichimeco and Otomí, and garambullo pronounced in Chichimeco and Otomí. Ahora sí. We've also put together or participated in this festival of language, art, and Otomi culture. And these are some of the activities that have taken place here in El Charco de Ingenio with indigenous groups that have come all the way from Querétaro to share with the indigenous groups here of Guanajuato. We've put together many workshops to strengthen all the knowledge and create networks among the communities. We've put together our medicinal book with the information that was provided by the people we had worked with in the Ethnoflora project. And of course, here is community workshops where people were finding that in order for them to preserve their natural resources, they could have an opportunity to take advantage of transforming these elements and providing them as a product in our gift shop. And our gift shop is really, we call it gift shop, but it's more of a, ¿cómo le llamamos? An exhibition center. So everything is under consignment. We do not buy anything. It's a fair trade, and there is no middleman. The people get paid in full what they decide, what they think their knowledge, their capacity, their heritage should be paid for. So that's why when you go to El Charco del Ingenio, each time you go through the gift shop, take as much as you can because you're helping and supporting much of the indigenous communities in the area, and you're helping a project of conservation as well. And of course, we believe, El Charco del Ingenio, everything should be art related. So we have also cooperated with teachers of engraving in the northeast part of the state, and they, with children, have put together these beautiful carvings, engravings. And we had this exhibition at El Charco del Ingenio just about 2 months ago, and it's really, really amazing. So we had the opportunity to also have puppet shows taken to the indigenous communities where children had never seen a puppet. So, and the theme of these puppet shows was the importance of safeguarding the indigenous language. So all this was very important to be able to manage. And here we see this story taking place in 3 different communities, and where children were really just amazed, and of course, adults as well. Any kind of a show, a theater or a movie is something that they've never had an opportunity to access. So when we took to the communities these puppet shows and the documentary, we put this giant screen and our projector and speakers, so people were really amazed, and especially the elderly, they were just so happy. And I remember one person saying, "Oh my God, it's been over 50 years that I last heard my native tongue," So this was very important to us, and this really moved us in order to follow in that way. We, of course, had also theater at El Charco del Ingenio and in indigenous communities. And guided tours. Now, these tours are very important because with all the information that we've managed to put together, we've changed our narrative, especially for school groups or for the communities. And we are finding that through this process of the guided tours, to have a strong impact on mothers mainly and fathers, because we invite children to come to El Charco, and of course they need to be accompanied by an adult, which is normally the mother, sometimes the father, But we are finding that our approach has to be, yes, to provide information to the youngsters, but the ones who are really just holding on to that information and allowing that information to be turned into a reality in their homes, in their community, are the mothers. So now we're working with children and mothers, and we've got today a collaboration with CONAFE. Have you ever heard of CONAFE? It's part of the federal education system that provides education to very rural and underdeveloped communities. So we've managed to work together and develop this strategy. Ay, me pasé. Gotta go back. Una más. There. Tortillas ceremoniales. We're finding through all this process that these ceremonial tortillas are a very important element in terms of the biocultural aspects of the area. Because we're finding that these tortillas that you've maybe seen in specific areas, festivities maybe, this is a practice that only takes place in the indigenous communities that sat throughout the River Laja. Only in the communities within the municipalities of Dolores Hidalgo, San Miguel de Allende, and Comonfort does this practice takes place. And people used to hide this practice because it's a very personal practice related with the crop and the growing of their seeds and their holy patrons. So each family would have something like this, a stamp, that we've found some that are over 130 years old, that they've been passed from the grandmother to the daughter and to the daughter and so on. And these are made from mesquite. And the plant that is normally used to dye this color, there are many others, but it's mainly this one, muicle. And so we've got M, muicle, M, mesquite, M, maíz, M, mujeres. So this involves women. Today we're finding some men are also inheriting these beautiful sellos. And these have either plants, animals, or saints. This is what we're finding that people are using. So we're bringing this back in order to, hopefully this year we will publish a book with all this information of the importance of this activity, and in order to work together with the indigenous groups, because this is not a show. This is not something to be all of a sudden happening in restaurants and things like that. This is very sacred, and we need to understand to not take this sacred elements into the restaurant industry or tourism here in San Miguel. And with this practice, people shared with us their seeds that they've been keeping throughout generations and generations. So we managed to cooperate with CBOGEM and the federal government to work with the indigenous groups so they could protect their native seeds. And we also had this activity of the ceremonial tortillas, corn, biosecurity, and territory. And here, I want to point out what was mentioned and put there. Now that our souls have been satisfied, we want to open a corner in time to feed the 3,000 years of the spirit of corn. Threatened today, more than ever, by transgenic seeds, let us turn our cornfields into territories of resistance. The words of the communities. So then we ran into the need to be able to train youngsters and the community in Dacilirium necrotricum. After we published a book of this sacred plant, which is used for the different ceremonies that take place throughout the year, we had the opportunity to train and supervise youngsters in different schools for them to learn how to propagate this sacred plant. So that's another action that has taken place. And with plants, you've got to talk about the animals that pollinate and that inhabit all these areas. So we've managed to put together workshops where they learn how to use a photo trap camera, how to interpret, as you can see here, feathers, another insects, different games, and this is part of the strategy that we are using today to approach the indigenous groups. These are the ethnobiological caravans, where here I want to point out, as I mentioned, it's the mothers. The mothers just love for their children to have fun and to learn, but at the end of the day, it's them who are taking in all this knowledge and then reproducing this knowledge at home and the community. So this allows for all this information to have a stronger impact. This is some of the information that has been gathered from the studies that we've been doing recently with the Ethnoflora Chichimeca. I've been mentioning mainly Otomi, but this is Chichimeca, and this is their little huts that they would put together, look, with leaves of maguey. These are the other plants that I had mentioned. The people taking advantage of garambullo, their nopales, their salsa, pulque. And we've put together at El Charco, El Ingenio, after all this research, these additional collections. One of plants of traditional use, the other of medicinal plants. You can see here all our signage. All our signage in El Charco, El Ingenio is first in Otomi, then in Spanish, and then in English. So here you see all our signage in Otomi. Also here, the Nopales and Choconosles collection in Otomi, Spanish, English, and this other collection of magueyes, isotes, y cucharillas. Useful cacti, milpa, which is very important as we're finding here, and we're putting together an arboretum for El Charco El Ingenio with more species of the center part of Mexico. And then we had to participate in solidarity economy workshops, because women's groups were saying, oh my God, okay, so we're learning how to preserve our natural resources and how to transform them. And some people are asking us for a factura. So we had to accompany them in all this process so we can tie all the knots and make this a productive action. The festivity of Charco del Ingenio, which takes place each July, and it is an area where about 23 indigenous groups gather. We also had the festival of the mesquite. We have now a seed bank with corn, cacti, and other important seeds for the area. And we also have been participating in this plan to make justice to the people of Chichimeca and Otomi in the state of Guanajuato and Querétaro. We've held the national meeting for herbariums. This is very important, took place last year. And we also had the national meeting for botanical gardens. And this is Dr. Paul Smith, Secretary General for Botanic Gardens Conservation International, who was here to inaugurate our activities. And we had to put together a a workshop with the 10 botanical gardens in the north part of the country in Monterrey last year. This has been all through this project, the National Council of Science, Technology, and Humanism, and this is all taking place in the Charco del Ingenio. Because of all this, and much of that I didn't mention of the garden that you should probably already know, is that today, El Charco del Ingenio is considered the most important botanical garden in Mexico. And we should be all so proud of what we've all achieved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mario. Does anybody have any questions?